Okay, hello, welcome back to Open on the Water, and that's exactly what I am today, on the water. Funny that, isn't it? Yeah, sort of a bit of a funny time at the moment. We've had a terrible May, absolutely terrible. The weather's just been pretty relentlessly bad. High winds and rain, just not what you want for fishing. But today a miracle has happened and there's a break in the weather. The clouds are parting and the sun is shining and the tide's incoming, so that to me says I need to go fishing, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today, out here on a sort of local estuary to me, just in the mouth of it now. As you can see, there's the open sea. It's actually pretty flat. I was expecting to be really limited to the estuary today, but I think it might not be the case. It's actually not looking too bad at all. So yeah, just going to sort of try a variety of methods today to see what we can catch. I'd like to be getting on some various species really, maybe some bass. I'm sure there'll be some pollock and wrasse around if we scratch near the rocks, and if we're really lucky, we might get into some bream. But you just don't know really when you're fishing a mark like this. It's quite a deep sandy estuary. So it can really throw up anything, especially at this time of year. You start to see a few species move up in, and we're going to try a bit of all sorts really. We've got some lures, some float, some bottom rigs. So yeah, sort of on the bottom, on the float, on the lure, with some worm. See what we can get into. I'll put you down now, and we'll rig up. I think. There we go. So, what I'm going to do to start off with is, as I was saying, we're right in the sort of mouth of the estuary here, and I'm going to start off just drifting along with a float rig out behind me, and then casting a lure to see if there's anything feeding. What I quite like to do is drift right in close to the sort of, you know, the cliffs here in behind me, and get in over some structure, as hopefully I'll be able to find some some sort of reef species in around there. And then as the tide pushes in, we're pretty much 2 hours into the flood right now. As the tide pushes in, I'll move up with that flood and get right up high. But there's been a lot of rainfall lately, and the water's really coloured, which, you know, that can impact the fishing sometimes. Sometimes it can help you. You know, sometimes fish are a little bit more keen to feed. But yeah, you just don't know really. So we're going to start off with, as I was saying, a float rod. All I've got it set up on is just basically a light spinning outfit, just a 10 to 35 gram rod, and yeah, just your standard float rig. If you've done any fishing before, you're probably familiar with this. It's just a little foam cigar float, and there's a 1 ounce barrel head to a trace about 2 feet. 3 feet. You don't need particularly long when you're fishing, sort of, especially in murky waters. But I never really find you need it too long when you're float fishing. And on that, we've got a very small hook, I'd say. That's a size 1 Aberdeen cotton rule great hook. Pretty much catch you anything because it's quite strong for its size. The wire gauge is pretty thick, even though it's a smaller hook. So if you do hook into a bigger fish, you know, if you're lucky enough to get into a gilt or something, then you're not going to struggle too much. And then on that, we're just going to put a nice friggly ragworm. Nice and visual bait, good movement, and anything will take a ragworm. So just thread him on the hook, and then it's as simple as just dropping the rig out. I've got the stop bead set at about 4 meters. We are in 14 apparently now, so it's going to float sort of mid water, but as we get in close to the rocks here, it's going to get a lot shallower, and then I can just see the float bobbing behind me. Have it about 2-3 meters off from the boat, and as we drift it, we'll just pull it along with us. We're going to go right towards these set of rocks here. So we're drifting from west to east at the moment, which works. And as we get closer to those rocks, it will bank up a bit, it will get shallower, and we'll stand a better chance of some reef species. So we'll leave that one out there. It's sort of passive, passive way of catching fish if you can. Might make it a little bit deeper, and then we'll move on to flipping some lures. This is my well, it says LRF, but it's not really, because it's 5 to 15 grams, so sort of in between a very light spinning rod, but not quite LRF, with a 2,500 reel, 12-pound braid. And if you watched my previous video, in this exact same spot, I had a fantastic bass on this setup. It was an absolute beauty. So if I can get anything similar to that today, I'll be chuffed. If I can catch any bass on this rod today, I'll be chuffed. But that was a really, really good fish, that was. So I'm just going to be, I'll show you the lure quickly. It's the same lure I was using last time. Smith's Saruna 99, in a sort, I think they call this a pilchard pattern, but as you can probably see there, this lure has just taken a beating over the time I've had it. I've had it for years, which is amazing for me, because I usually lose lures in the first 2 or 3 outings with them. But yeah, just a fantastic shallow dive. It dives to about a metre. So yeah, great for bass, garfish, that sort of thing. Anything that feeds sort of, mid water up to the top. Yeah, you can just do anything with this lure. You can cast, retrieve, trawl. It just works really well. And yeah, especially when they're sort of turned on to those sort of pilchards and sardines, those sort of things. A little bit of a breeze, and I'm just going to cast towards the rocks and retrieve. I'm crouched down at the moment, but I might stand up in a bit. It's not too rough. Wind behind me, lovely job. And I'm just going to give it a nice gentle retrieve. I don't see any bird activity or anything like that, but you never know, do you? You never know. What it is worth doing on the float rod is loosening that drag right off. So if you do get a good fish take it, you'll hear it run. It's not going to, come fast and run a chance of it unhooking itself. We'll stay here for a bit, half an hour or so maybe, see what the fishing is like. If it's quiet, then we'll move up the river, see if there's any other. The water's so coloured at the moment, unfortunately. We might struggle with the tactics we're using today, but ideally I'd be fishing with lug hard on the bottom. I couldn't get any lug well. But yeah, it's not to worry too much. We'll have a go. It's the best we can do. If you catch something, fantastic. If not, it's a lovely day to be out, and that's the way you should always treat things when you're out on the water. It's a nice day to be out. If you catch them, that's a bonus. But I am feeling like I'm going to get something. I'm going to try my best anyway. Let's see what we can do. Well, we're into our first fish of the day here, and I was just bouncing a black minnow in along the reefy parts at the mouth here, and yeah, someone's took it. It's only small. It could be a little wrasse or a pollock, I expect. And yeah, that's a tiny little wrasse. Fantastic. Right, let's get him up. Get a bit close to the rocks now. That beautiful little fish, absolutely beautiful. I believe that's a ballon, a very small one at that though. Right, I just have to motor away from the rocks real quick. Oh. And that's the other rod snagged up. At least I thought it was a bite, but it went off a little bit. Right, let's just get this away from the rocks. Where that float went under there, we might be able to get it back. You can often do that when you're on a snag. Just go back to where you got snags. Try and pull from the other direction. Let's try that now. Could actually be a fish on there. There is. There's a fish. Yep, that's a fish. I bet that's a wrasse that's taken us into a snag there. What is it? Yeah, that's a wrasse. Wrasse, much the float and the ragworm, took us into a snag. hence why I thought it was, I could hear the drag going, clicking, and yeah, there we go. That's a lovely ballan. I'll tell you what, they're lovely colours here, really dark red, stunning fish. And that just gobbled up the ragworm. Oh, getting close to the rocks again now. So there we go. It all happened at once there. Let's see if I can sort things out a bit. Two. He's spiky. Two lovely ballan wrasse to start the day off. One on the lure, small one on the lure surprisingly, and the big one on the bait. Just get back the rocks a little bit. The engine running. So, good way to start the day, 2 wrasse. Sort of what you would expect in this sort of area. As you can see, I'm right close to the rocks here. So nice little bit of reef. Just get away from those rocks. I mean, they'll be fine on the deck. Wrasse. They're quite hardy fish, especially when you catch them in shallow water. They are quite hardy fish, and it's not particularly warm today. If it was a really hot day, you'd want to make sure the deck is wet so that they're not, you know, they come from quite a cold environment. So let's get this one unhooked. Thankfully, he hasn't done too much damage to that black minnow, because they can. Wrasse are notorious for destroying black minnows. So I believe that's a small ballan. Really miniature one, really cute. Back he goes, happy days. Always better when you catch them in shallow water. This guy is taking the hook a little bit deep, but we'll be able to get. With the help of our friend, the Leatherman. Well, there you have it. A lovely dark ballan wrasse. Not the biggest, but certainly a pretty fish, that's for sure. So, and I mean, look at that. When they catch the sun sometimes, they just have amazing colours. You just don't expect to see it sometimes. Look at that. Look at that for a mean looking fish, eh? Beautiful fish as well. Slip her back. She's gone off lovely. Fantastic. That's a good start. Sort of thinking I might head in a bit now, head up river and see if I can try for some fish that, you know, you'd get more in the sort of estuary environment than out here on the open water. Yeah, that's what we'll do. I think head up and see what the tide's bringing. When fishing an estuary mark like this, it can be quite hard to know sometimes where to fish. You know, there's usually not many features in an estuary. You'll have the channel, obviously, and maybe you know, a few little bends and stuff like that, but generally there's not many features. There's not reefs and stuff like that like you would get on the open coast. So it's hard to pick a spot, especially, you know, somewhere you haven't fished before, so you don't know where the fish hold. I quite like to find pinch points, so points where the channel and the sort of the whole of the estuary narrows, and that's exactly where I'm fishing right now. That's one side, and then there's the other. It's a very narrow point of the estuary, this, and you'll see when I spin around how much it opens up. So the fish, if they're wanting to go up river, they're going to have to travel through here. You know, it's a narrow point, so I can cover a lot of this area with a float, a bottom rig, and a lure. With the idea that any fish that are moving through, they'll come across. They'll come across my bait or lure. So that's my sort of thinking behind finding spots on the estuary. Although it's always worth keeping moving, because the fish aren't just going to be in one place. They're going to keep moving. It's not like a reef where you can sort of hover over it for, you know, the duration of a day and do different tricks. You have got to keep moving on and on and on. And today we're moving up. So yeah, we'll just fish here for another 10-20 minutes, and if there's nothing biting, then we'll carry on going up and see what species we can find. But yeah, that's my logic behind finding the spot to fish on an estuary. Well, there we are. There's one to add to the species count for today. Probably can't see me that well because of the sun. Little starfish on the ragworm. Seems to be a common occurrence here, starfish. Don't know what species that is. Maybe someone knows if they can see it. Like I was saying, it's important to keep moving throughout the day to find where the fish are, and I wasn't having much luck sort of down in the deeper channel, I just couldn't find many fish. So I've moved up now. It's quite a high point in the estuary, and this is an interesting spot in my opinion, because what you've got here is a tribute here coming down, joining the main channel, and I've positioned myself right in the middle of this, as you can see. And the tide's starting to ebb now, quite strong, and the theory is that any fish that have gone up that tribute there, they're going to want to come down with the tide. You know, they're not going to be able to stay up there because there's just not going to be enough water. So I've put myself right in the middle. I've got a bait on the bottom, a bait out the back on the float, and we'll just see if there's any fish moving through. They should find it. Hopefully this far up we might be in with a better chance of some bream, Guilthead bream. That'd be really nice. May is a good time for them. They start coming in now. So yeah, Guilthead bream and maybe some bass. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the tide brings, and yeah, it'd be nice to see some action on the rods, because it has been a little bit quiet so far today. We'll wait and see. Well, here we go, bite on the bottom rod. Doesn't feel particularly big. Good to get into a fish. Been a little while since I've put the rod knot. What is it going to be? Oh, I reckon it's a small bass. Let's have a look. Hey, there we go. He's coming up. What is it? Oh no, it's a small bream. Get in. Hey, happy days. There we go. Unhooked himself. Beautiful fish. Here we go. Get him up to the camera. Look at that. Stunning. A Guilthead bream. That's a real treat, that is. On a quiet day's fishing. A lovely Guilthead bream, and they're stunning fish. Absolutely stunning fish, aren't they? That one's quite lightly coloured, actually. Usually they've got a little bit of a golden patch on their head there. Ooh. He's quite light in colour. Stunning fish, really tasty. Struggling with him a bit here. Really tasty fish, but he's a bit small to keep, really. We'll get him back, I think. Well, as the light slowly fades away behind me, that's it. It's time for me to call it a day, and it's been a great one. Nice mix of species, nothing massive, but can't really complain, can I? Guilthead bream, that was fantastic to see, and yeah, just sort of a nice day on the water. You always enjoy it, don't you? Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which is a fantastic milestone for me, and if you haven't subscribed and you do enjoy the videos, please do subscribe, because it does motivate me to make more. I know I bang on about it, but it really does. And obviously go and follow me on Instagram, Open on the Water, and you can have a bit more say in what I do in the videos. So that's it from me and the Hydrus.